Have you ever wondered what it would be like if, one day, you came across a mysterious door that granted access to another world? A world full of monsters, magic, and the possibility that everything you learned or obtained there could be brought back to our own world. Well, that is exactly the premise of this anime. So, share in the comments below what you would like to bring back to our world if you could spend just a single day in an isekai. And without any further delay, let us get straight into the video. It all begins when a young girl is being harassed by a few men with bad intentions, and at that moment Yuya appears. He is a boy who decided to step in to help her, but the men did not like his interference and began mocking him, calling him fat and ugly, and shortly afterward they beat him until the police arrived and the men fled. The girl thanks him, but Yuya tells her it is fine and leaves. We then discover that the one who taught Yuya to always help others was his grandfather. However, when he arrives home, he comes across a bizarre scene. The house has been completely vandalized, with a wall covered in insults. Since he was a child, Yuya had always been the target of bullying, and his parents always gave preference to his siblings, as they considered them far more attractive than him. As they all grew older, the situation only worsened. He was beaten at school and excluded from everything. The only one who ever gave him any attention was his grandfather, constantly reminding him that doing good for others is what truly matters. After his grandfather passed away, he left the house and all his savings to Yuya. His parents even tried to take his inheritance, but they failed and ended up abandoning him completely. Now Yuya lives alone, doing his best to manage, working several part-time jobs wherever he can. At school, he is close to graduating, but even in the class yearbook, only cruel comments were written about him. When he tries to leave for school, the bullies block his way, saying that even after graduation he will still remain their victim. He tells them he needs to go to work, but they beat him again, while his siblings watch from a distance without lifting a finger to help. At work, his boss loses patience with his constant lateness and fires him. When he returns home, he eats dinner sadly and looks at himself in the mirror. Frustrated, he breaks the glass, thinking nothing in his life will ever improve. In desperation, he punches the wall and suddenly, it reveals a hidden room. Inside, there are many strange objects he assumes are mementos from his grandfather's travels. But what catches his attention the most is a completely different looking door. He decides to open it and finds another room, and then, out of nowhere, a notification appears. Reading the message, Yuya realizes that the door is a gateway to another world. Several more notifications appear, explaining functions such as storing items and restricting who can use the door. Even though it seems a bit crazy, he thinks it is exactly like a game and decides to check his own status. When he looks at his attributes, he notices that they are all extremely low, which saddens him as he realizes how weak he is. While exploring the area, he looks outside and confirms that he truly is in another universe. He also finds a note on a table, but cannot understand a single word. Then, without warning, a language skill activates automatically, allowing him to read and understand both the text and the language. He discovers that the house once belonged to a legendary sage, who left everything to whoever found the place after his death, including all the magical items. The house is protected by powerful enchantments, meaning only the rightful owner can enter. Yuya finds incredible weapons, all possessing an absurd level of power. He decides to test a sword and ends up learning a basic combat skill. Excited, he goes on to test each weapon one by one, all of extremely high level, acquiring new abilities with each. However, his status still does not change, and he cannot understand how to increase it. After storing everything in his inventory, a monster suddenly appears. Yuya is startled but realizes he is safe within the house. The monster is a level 300 blood ogre trying to break through the magical barrier by using a tree as a battering ram, but nothing works. Despite his fear, Yuya decides to fight back and throws a magical spear that pierces through the creature, killing it instantly. The spear returns to his hand, and the monster vanishes, dropping several items. Yuya's level jumps directly to 100, and in shock, he allocates his stat points and decides to stop there for the day. As he is about to leave, an option appears allowing him to exchange the monster's loot for money. Surprised, he accepts without hesitation. That night, his body begins to change completely, and when he wakes up, he realizes he is unrecognizable. His old clothes no longer fit. With no mirror to see himself, he looks for new clothes. In the sage's collection, he finds magical garments that automatically adjust to the wearer and grant special bonuses. Curious about the house's former owner, he explores the garden but is attacked by a level 200 slime. This time, Yuya calmly picks up the spear and defeats the monster with ease. The slime drops a few items, including a rare necklace that restores mana. He gains even more levels and learns the ability to detect presences, already reaching level 150. Trying out the drop left behind by the slime, he ends up tasting the coffee jelly and really enjoys the flavor. This coffee jelly increases magic and defense when consumed, and with the money he obtained, he bought a new uniform, planning to use it for high school. From that point on, he spends the whole day exploring the new world and having so much fun that he even forgets about his depression, training and learning everything that this new world can offer him. One day, a very strong goblin invades his house, but by now he is far more confident than before and easily defeats the goblin with the abilities he has learned. Time passes quickly, and soon the start of high school arrives, where he immediately draws everyone's attention, even his siblings being quite impressed. Some bullies from his old school approach him, but they do not even recognize him. They assume he is just a new student, and when he introduces himself as Yuya, everyone is left in disbelief. He goes to the bathroom and finally looks at himself in the mirror, being shocked at his own appearance. After class, his siblings go after him, asking what made him change so much, still calling him a failure. Suddenly, a limousine arrives. The girl he had saved earlier appears, looking for him. It takes him a moment to remember her, but she explains that he was her hero, and he is surprised that she knows his name. She says she researched him in order to thank him and introduces herself as Kaori. She asks if he would like to study at Ausei Academy, an elite school. We learn that Kaori is part of the student council, and that her father, Utsukaze, is the school's principal. Yuya feels honored by the invitation, but he thinks he does not have the right profile for such a prestigious school. His brother tries to interfere, claiming that he and their sister are better than Yuya at everything, but Kaori immediately cuts him off, saying she does not accept people who mistreated Yuya and that she already knows everything they have done to him. She says that what matters in school is character, not just high grades, so Yuya will always be welcome. Her assistant suggests showing Yuya the school, and they leave together, while his siblings remain in disbelief at what just happened. When they arrive at the famous school, he meets Utsukaze, who thanks him for saving his daughter. Yuya says it was nothing, but Kaori insists, saying no one else helped her. Utsukaze invites Yuya to study at the school and offers to pay for his education as a way of expressing his gratitude. Still, Yuya feels he will not fit in, as the school is full of geniuses. But Utsukaze explains that being a genius means knowing how to put effort in the right way, not just being born with talent. He tells Yuya that everyone has their own abilities, and that by facing challenges and enjoying the process, he will eventually discover his potential. Utsukaze suggests that Yuya at least try spending one day at the school, and a teacher named Sawada appears. Utsukaze introduces her as a highly respected scientist whose lessons are very engaging and extremely popular among the students. In the next scene, we see Yuya preparing for class, afraid that he might not be worthy of studying there. However, he thinks that it cannot possibly be worse than his old school, and when it is time to introduce himself, he notices everyone staring at him in astonishment. At first, he thinks they are mocking him, but in reality, everyone is simply impressed by how handsome he is. Yuya takes a seat in the back of the classroom and ends up sharing a book with Keed, who is sitting next to the seat he chose. However, she is not very welcoming, and Yuya starts to think she may have taken a dislike to him right from the start. Meanwhile, Kaori wonders whether Yuya will be able to get along with his classmates. During the lesson, Yuya notices that the environment is quite relaxed, but the students are much more energetic and engaged than he was used to. At break time, several classmates approach Yuya, starting conversations and asking whether he is some kind of celebrity or if he already has a girlfriend. But then Hayu arrives to put an end to the crowd surrounding Yuya. He introduces himself and says that everyone is curious about him, including himself. He invites Yuya to have lunch in the cafeteria, and upon arriving there, the menu surprises Yuya, and when he learns that everything is free, he wonders if he is dreaming while awake. At the table, they sit with Shingo, and the conversation quickly shifts to anime. Yuya is pleasantly surprised to find they share many interests with him, and in the middle of lunch, he notices that everyone is looking at him. He assumes it is because his uniform is different from the rest of the students. Shingo asks if he has joined any club yet, but Yuya says he has not entered one. Hayu also does not belong to any club, but for a different reason he is skilled in many sports and cannot choose just one. Shingo, on the other hand, reveals that he is in the gaming club, and Yuya is amazed to learn that there is a school where consoles are allowed. Shingo explains that it is fine as long as they do not play during class. Talking about games makes Yuya start feeling more comfortable around them. After classes, he runs into Tsukasa and tells him that he really enjoyed the day. Yuya then decides that he will study there for good, and as he leaves, he meets Kaori, who asks if he is truly going to stay at the school. He answers yes, and she becomes genuinely happy about his decision. Kaori invites Yuya to go for a walk after class, and they stroll through several shops in a well-known area. He wonders if this is the place where she usually meets her friends, but she reveals that she rarely goes out, since many people avoid her because of her family and her father. Even so, she says Yuya is different, and a little awkwardly, Yuya suggests they go have a crepe. Seeing the prices, he silently feels grateful for being able to get money from another world. They enjoy the snack together, and Yuya even considers trying other flavors, but he is afraid of overindulging and ending up returning to his former appearance. He asks Kaori how she was able to recognize him so easily, given that he has changed so much. She says that even though he is slimmer, his eyes are still the same, and she offers him a piece of her crepe since he wanted to try the others. Yuya becomes a little embarrassed, and she immediately notices his shyness, but he also shares his crepe with her. She accepts, also shy, and some girls passing by find the scene extremely cute. Later that night, Yuya decides to take a trip into the other world, wearing his full armor. He charges at the monsters that appear along the way, and even with some hesitation, he manages to defeat them all. Soon, he realizes that he has already reached level 235, but now leveling up is becoming more and more difficult. So he decides that he needs to venture farther into the world to find stronger creatures. Thinking about the challenges at the academy, Yuya wants to test his new limits. But as soon as he steps beyond the gate, he hears someone shouting. He draws his spear and runs to see what happened, finding several fallen soldiers. He quickly realizes that his enemy is a level 200 goblin general. Even sensing the danger, he notices there is a girl nearby. He throws his spear, but the goblin dodges. However, with a precise follow-up strike, Yuya finishes the goblin. He checks to see if the girl is alright, but she warns him that another goblin is approaching from behind. Yuya is thrown back and sees that this one is even stronger than the previous one. He does not give up and uses his spear to propel himself forward, then switches to his bow and fires several arrows, finishing the fight by slicing the goblin in half with his sword. He worries about the girl, thinking about the monsters of that world, but she faints. When he hears footsteps approaching, he activates his invisibility so as not to be seen. The knights soon arrive, searching for the girl, and we discover that she is Princess Lexia. Back at home, Yuya keeps thinking about everything that happened, wondering if the girl is alright. Since she had knights to help her, he assumes she must be fine. Looking at his own appearance, he decides it is time to buy some new clothes, as he has some extra money. He goes to the mall, and everyone looks at him as if he were some kind of celebrity. The enchanted shirt he wears never gets dirty, but he decides to buy other outfits for variety. Meanwhile, we see a director angrily talking to the manager of a model named Shu, who disappeared right before a photoshoot. The manager had received a call from Shu, but the director is furious because he is delaying everyone, especially Mio, another model who has been waiting since early in the morning. Since it is a couple's photoshoot, they cannot take pictures with only one person, so the director decides to find someone at the mall to replace the missing model. Yuya, lost among so many clothing options, is approached by some girls. He thinks it might be sales talk from shop assistants, but they only want to help him choose. Not wanting to be rude, he politely declines, which leaves the girls shocked before they start excitedly reacting to his presence. Yuya, however, reflects on how he behaved, and just then, the director, searching for a substitute, walks by and spots Yuya, realizing he has found the perfect replacement. The director explains the entire situation, and Yuya decides to help, thinking he cannot disappoint those who are waiting for him. During the photos, Yuya plays the role of the boyfriend, changes outfits, and poses in various ways. The director asks him to put more expression into his gaze. Even though he feels stiff, he receives praise from Mio, who says he is doing well for a first time. Yuya is impressed by the girl, and she thanks him for having saved her workday. Yuya notices that she is getting progressively closer to him, and the director comments that he looks a bit stiff in the photos. They change the setting, and Yuya is quite impressed with Mio, since they are practically the same age and she is so dedicated, so he decides to give a little more of himself. In the next pose, Mio clings to him, and he becomes completely flustered. The director asks her to get even closer, so she hugs him, making Yuya blush deeply, and a crowd gathers to watch. Meanwhile, in the other world, Princess Alexia remembers the moment she was saved and decides to return to the dark forest to find the one who helped her. The knight tries to convince her not to go, speaking of the dangers, but she refuses and says that this time everyone will go together. The guards even comment, wondering where she got all that courage from. Back at the mall, the session ends, and Yuya is exhausted. Mio thanks him again, and Yuya even chokes on his juice. But Mio offers him a handkerchief. Yuya feels embarrassed because he is sweaty and cannot use the sleeve of the borrowed outfit. He reflects on the modeling experience, thinking Mio is incredibly talented, but she explains that she also made many mistakes in the beginning. Yuya realizes he never had the chance to wear such stylish clothes, and curiously, he asks why she became a model. She says she wanted to be noticed since her parents were always busy. When she started to become successful, she continued because she liked bringing joy to people. She tells Yuya to follow his own pace and enjoy each moment in his own way. While they are talking, the director suddenly begins taking several candid photos of him. But suddenly, Sho appears and energizes everyone around. He approaches Mio and says it's time to resume the photos, then ends up pinning her against the wall, saying he wanted to invite her out. But it's clear Mio feels very uncomfortable, and Yuya notices it immediately. Yuya doesn't stand still, he intervenes, leaving Sho intrigued about who he is. Sho tries to punch him, but Yuya manages to dodge and even throws him aside, leaving everyone impressed. Yuya notices that Sho's attack seemed very slow and thinks he might have gotten himself into trouble for hitting such a handsome guy. But in the end, the crowd starts applauding, thinking Yuya is super cool. Sho is outraged, since he is a boxer and still lost. The director orders him to leave, saying the shoot is over, and Sho leaves irritated. Mio thanks Yuya for his help, explaining that Sho was always following her, and she no longer knew what to do. The director says Sho always had that kind of behavior, so now he probably won't get any more work. He even asks Yuya if he would like to continue as a model, and Yuya thanks him for the opportunity to participate and learn from so many great people, but says that he feels modeling is not really his thing and declines. The director understands his decision and gifts him all the clothes used in the session, since Yuya couldn't afford them as a beginner. Yuya is already satisfied just for having participated, but the director insists that he deserves some rewards, especially after helping everyone. So Yuya accepts the clothes as a gift. Mio comments that she would like to work with him again and wishes him good luck. After that, in the car, the director says it's a shame Yuya doesn't want to continue, since he had everything it takes to shine. While looking through the photos, Mio notices how Yuya has changed, and the director notices her blushing and teases her, saying she might be interested in him. At home, Yuya organizes his wardrobe with the new clothes, and we see that his image has started to spread around. Some agencies want to know who he is, and a determined woman appears, intent on hiring him, ordering her agent to find him before the competition does. She saw that he managed to draw attention alongside Mio, even as a rookie, and doesn't want to miss this chance. Meanwhile, in the other world, the knights traveling with Lexia fight against goblins, but they are being overwhelmed when one tries to attack her from behind. Yuya arrives and defeats the monster with ease, surprising everyone there. He resolves the situation quickly and tends to a wounded knight. Lexia goes to speak with him, saying she came to the forest because she had something to tell him. Yuya wants to know what it is, but she suddenly proposes to him, shocking everyone. Her knight asks if she has lost her mind, reminding her that she is a princess and barely knows Yuya. But Lexia insists it was love at first sight, and they begin to argue. Yuya interrupts everyone, saying the place is dangerous, and invites them all to his home, surprising them when they learn he lives in the middle of the forest. They are astonished by Yuya's house, and the knight introduces himself as Owen. He is the leader of the Arcelia Knights and introduces Lexia as the first princess of Arcelia, and second in the line of succession to the throne. She thanks him once again for having saved everyone, and Yuya starts to worry about how he should behave now that he knows she is a princess. They reassure him, saying that nothing is official, and that he is the one who saved them. Yuya introduces himself, and they find his name quite unusual, speculating that it is an uncommon name for the kingdom of Arcelia. Lexia even imagines that he might be royalty from another land, while Owen considers other possibilities. Owen explains that they came to look for him because, last time, when he saved Lexia, she could not even properly thank him. She says she has been unable to stop thinking about him since that day and asks him to marry her again. Yuya thinks all of this is happening too quickly, and the princess realizes it would not be exciting if it were that easy. Thinking of the books she has read, she decides they should first be friends. And although Yuya feels a bit awkward, he ends up agreeing. Owen takes the opportunity to mention the other reason they are there. The king wants Yuya to visit the castle personally so he can express his gratitude. Yuya hesitates, but Owen says it is the king's order, meaning there is no way to refuse. So with no other choice, Yuya accepts. Owen says the whole trip should take around 5 days, but Yuya worries that this might interfere with the start of his classes. He asks to postpone it, and Owen says they can wait as long as necessary. They say their goodbyes, and Lexia warns him to be ready because next time, she will try to win his heart. In the kingdom's capital, we see a man receiving news about the failure of the attempt to kill Lexia. Then, a masked man appears, the one who sent the assassins, but everything went wrong because they were killed by monsters in the forest. The masked man is puzzled as to how Lexia returned unharmed and threatens his subordinate not to fail again. He removes his mask, revealing a deformed face, and discloses that he is also part of the royal family, vowing to take revenge on the princess. Back at Yuya's home, he marks on the calendar the date he plans to visit the king. He puts on his new uniform and heads to his first day at the new school. Everyone stares as he walks, thinking he must be a famous model, and upon arriving, the principal greets him, but says he does not have time to talk, simply telling Yuya to enjoy the experience. Yuya is officially introduced to the class and meets Ryo and Shingo again, who are very happy to see him there. After that, the scene shifts to a soccer game where we see Ryo scoring a goal, driving the girls wild. Yuya watches from the sidelines, thinking Ryo is an amazing guy, until Keed approaches and asks why he is not playing too. Yuya explains that his gym clothes have not arrived yet. While Ryo tries to dribble past everyone, he eventually passes the ball to his friend Akira, who attempts a different move but misses and accidentally hits Keed with the ball. Yuya ends up defending her and even scores a goal, impressing the crowd. He checks to see if Keed is okay, and she is surprised by his manner. Akira rushes over to apologize, saying he will become her servant, but Keed refuses and says everything is fine. Ryo comments that Akira is just a bit eccentric, and Akira thanks them for their help. Later, Kaori goes to change for practice, and the girls talk about Yuya, thinking he looks like a prince. Keed tells them what happened, and everyone assumes he must have a girlfriend. But Kaori and Keed deny it, saying nothing has been confirmed. In the next class, Yuya waves to Kaori on the field, and suddenly, some delinquents arrive on motorcycles, surrounding the girls and swinging clubs. They draw everyone's attention and are known as the Red Ogres, the most dangerous gang in the area. Yuya realizes he knows them and spots his siblings among them. Kaori is puzzled, asking what they are doing there, and Yuya's brother, Yui Yoda, points to her as the principal's daughter. Kaori realizes who they are, and they make it clear they have come to take revenge on her, believing she treated him terribly and even let Yuya into the academy. Kaori warns that the police are on their way, but Yuya's sister, Sora, thinks there is still time before they arrive, so the group decides they will kidnap Kaori to get revenge. They close in on her, making the atmosphere very tense. Yuya wants to act to help Kaori, but he notices his leg will not stop shaking, and despite having faced much more dangerous monsters in the other world, he still feels the trauma of his former bullies. His friends grow tense watching him freeze, but after a moment, he manages to regain control. Then, suddenly, he opens the window and jumps out, surprising everyone, as they are on the 4th floor. However, he lands safely without injury, and already on his feet, Yuya ends up facing his old rival, Araki. He says it's time to settle the score and orders everyone to go after Yuya, but Yuya ends up dodging every attack and quickly manages to take everyone down. Araki still tries to strike, but Yuya simply ignores everything and remains focused on rescuing Kaori. At that moment, a huge brute named Omori appears, trying to block his way. Yet Yuya doesn't even bother with his presence, and soon throws the man far away without any effort. After that, Yuya goes to Kaori to check if she is alright. But he is interrupted when the leader of the Red Ogres charges straight at him. Yuya evades, and the man tries to run him over with his motorcycle, but it ends badly for him, losing control and falling. The police arrive right afterward, arrest the entire gang, and send the students back to their classrooms. Yuya still checks if Kaori is okay, but she feels a bit dizzy, and he ends up holding her, creating that romantic atmosphere. Meanwhile, his brother Iota keeps muttering that the Red Ogres are useless, but soon after, he is grabbed by the neck by the gang leader, who begins to place all the blame on him. Sora tries to help, but is pushed away with a kick, and the gang leader continues choking Iota until Yuya appears, tells him to stop, separates the two, and throws the gang leader to the ground. The leader tries to advance again, but Yuya stares him down firmly, and the crowd around wonders what just happened. Though soon everything calms down, Yuya keeps thinking about why he helped his brother, and he says that even after everything he went through, they are still family, so he could never abandon them. His brothers get emotional and start crying, kneeling before Yuya and apologizing for everything they did to him. His friends also show up, and Yuya apologizes for any trouble he might have caused. But everyone is impressed, wanting to know how he managed to jump from the window like that. After this, Yuya decides to explore the other world again, but he remembers Owen's warning that the Black Forest is the most dangerous region in those lands. It is full of creatures so powerful they could destroy an entire city. Curious, Yuya starts thinking about the previous owner of the house, the sage. He ventures deeper and deeper into the forest in search of more challenging monsters, until he hears a noise and sees a little puppy being attacked by an orc. The dog is surrounded by a dark aura to attack, but it has no strength left to react. From a distance, Yuya realizes that the orc is an orc king of level 600, with absurd attack stats of over 20,000. He thinks he has no chance at all, so he considers walking away, but the orc keeps mistreating the puppy. In the end, Yuya cannot leave the little dog in that state, and he remembers how his grandfather would act in such a situation. He decides at least to try distracting the orc, and when he charges forward, he ends up defeating it instantly, even feeling awkward for having taken so long to build the courage, only to solve it so easily. He recalls the time he defeated an ogre while still at level 1 and begins thinking about the sage who created such unusually powerful weapons. Yuya tries to approach the dog, which growls at him, but after offering it a potion, the little creature collapses. He quickly takes care of the dog, and soon they start to grow accustomed to each other. While talking, he learns that the dog is alone in the world, so he offers it shelter. The dog happily accepts, and Yuya gains a taming skill, making the puppy his companion. When he checks the dog's stats, he discovers it is a black Fenrir of level 500 and is shocked by its power. Thinking of a name, he looks at its black fur and decides to call it Knight, who jumps on him full of excitement. Back home, Yuya looks at the items he got from the Orc King, an S-rank magic stone, a sword, and armor that belonged to the Orc King. Though they cannot be used by humans, they might be reforged. He also finds a rare brush that makes hair grow, but decides to use it to brush Knight. After checking his own stats, he sees he is still at level 235, so he finds it strange that he didn't level up despite defeating a level 600 enemy. But he decides to understand the system better later. Returning to the real world, he leaves Knight at home and goes to school. He asks his friends where there is a pet shop, telling them he adopted a dog. Keed gets very excited and wants to see pictures, but Yuya feels uncomfortable with her being so close. She apologizes, and he says he has no photos because he doesn't have a cell phone, which his friends find strange, but he only answers that he never felt the need to have one. They tell him which pet shop is closest, but say they cannot go with him after class. However, Keed offers to accompany him. Yuya thanks her, and she thinks it could be like a date, but tells Yuya not to worry about that. When he gets home, Knight runs toward him, and Yuya shows him the accessories Keed helped him choose. He puts the new collar on Knight and decides to go for a walk, and in the park, everyone keeps looking at the two of them, thinking Yuya is very stylish and saying his dog, Knight, is very cute. During this walk, he runs into Kaori and introduces Knight to her. She begins stroking Knight's fur, finding him adorable, while people around them think they look perfect together. Kaori asks what Knight's breed is, But Yuya pretends not to know after all. He can't exactly say he's a monster, right? Even so, she notices how intelligent he is and feels happy that Yuya adopted him. Suddenly, a girl calls Yuya it's Miyu, the model who had worked with him earlier at the mall. She also lives nearby and often comes to the park. Yuya introduces the two girls, and people are surprised to see him with more than one beautiful woman. The crowd grows even larger when they start recognizing Miyu, but to avoid causing too much commotion, she decides to leave, saying she hopes to meet Yuya again soon. After she leaves, Kaori asks if Miyu is his girlfriend, but Yuya, startled, just says they only met once and that she was far too good for him. Kaori doesn't really agree with that. But suddenly, a woman screams after a young man steals her purse. Kaori asks what to do, and Yuya tells Knight to go after the thief. They check on the lady, and soon Knight comes back bringing the criminal with him. Yuya asks Kaori to call the police, but the guy manages to escape and goes after her to try to stop her. Yuya steps in, quickly subdues the man, and holds him down. The crowd cheers, thinking Yuya is amazing, and Kaori thanks him again for saving her. They hand the thief over to the police, and Yuya goes home, but afterward, he continues exploring even deeper into the dark forest. Now, with Knight by his side, they easily defeat several monsters until they encounter another Orc King. This time, however, Knight shows his full power and defeats the monster alone with a precise bite to the neck. Following the path, they come across a crystal-made stag at level 630. Yuya stays hidden using invisibility and notices that the creature has incredible magical attributes. While they are still deciding how to act, the stag unexpectedly senses their presence and forces Yuya to react immediately, even though he is invisible. The stag charges at them, making them split up, and Knight attempts a direct attack. But the stag defends itself with explosive magic. It immediately prepares another attack, firing a water blast at Yuya, who narrowly dodges it. Realizing they need teamwork, Yuya asks Knight to distract the stag and create an opening. Using his speed, Knight leaps at the stag, but the creature counters with multiple magical explosions. Even so, Knight manages to land a hit, allowing Yuya to deliver the finishing blow. When checking the loot dropped by the stag, a box catches his attention. Upon examining it, he discovers a portable bath kit that stays clean automatically and even has a privacy function. Impressed by the find, he decides to test it and discovers several interesting features. For safety, he chooses to use it only at home, where he takes a relaxing bath with Knight. The next day, they face a monster called the Rolling Thorn, known for its incredible speed. Yuya struggles a bit at first, but manages to predict its movements and dodge easily, causing the monster to crash into a rock wall and then defeating it quickly. With that, he reaches level 240, while Knight reaches level 510. At that moment, the wall where the monster crashed breaks apart, revealing a hidden cave, which Yuya decides to explore. He checks for enemies but finds none, and upon entering a larger chamber, the cave suddenly lights up, revealing a body. Shocked by the sight, Yuya notices a book on the ground, pointed out by Knight. He discovers that the book was left behind by a sage, and upon reading it, Yuya learns that the sage possessed incredible abilities, mastering every possible technique and reaching a power level equal to that of the gods. He was even invited by them to join their ranks, but refused the offer. Then, the book begins speaking directly to Yuya, warning him that the stronger he becomes, the more people will fear him. Concerned by this, he listens to the sage's voice, advising him to find people he can trust. The sage offers his help, and Yuya asks to learn magic. The sage then records all his magical knowledge into the book, but notes that Yuya has no aptitude for magic because he is from another world, meaning he does not possess magical pathways. He explains that humans of that world produce magical energy in their hearts, and despite that, he decides to transfer his own magic circuits to Yuya, asking him to be happy and live a good life. At home, Yuya begins studying magic with the book. At first, he learns to sense the magical energy around him, gaining the ability to manipulate it. To use magic, he only needs to gather energy in his hand and visualize the desired effect. Even when outside, he imagines a ball of water. Noticing that, Knight also starts learning. When he throws the ball at a tree, he realizes the attack is incredibly powerful, piercing the trunk completely. Meanwhile, in the royal castle, Owen presents his report to the king about Yuya. But when he mentions that the princess proposed marriage to Yuya, the king loses control, convinced that his daughter was seduced. At school, Yuya recalls the sage's warning about using magical techniques that are little known even in the other world. The teacher reminds them about next week's field trip, dividing the class into groups of 4. Yuya is placed in the same group as Keed, Kira, and a girl named Rin. Keed is very excited about the trip, but Yuya reveals that he has no camping gear, so she suggests they go to the mall to buy some things for him. There, they meet Shingo, who is surprised to see Kaori with them. Ryu is impressed by the friendship between Yuya and Kaori, since she had always seemed distant for being the principal's daughter, but she asks to be treated as just another student. Yuya notes Akira's absence, and Shingo explains that he couldn't come. After buying a backpack for Yuya, the group decides to have fun at the arcade. Shingo gets excited seeing his favorite character on a machine, but admits he's bad at the game. Using his ability to detect weaknesses, Yuya wins on the very first try. Keed asks him to win a plush toy for her, and he does it with ease. He ends up winning prizes for everyone in the group, and Kaori thanks him, happy that this was her first visit to an arcade. While the girls shop for clothes, the boys go to a cafe. Yuya feels truly happy to finally enjoy himself with friends, but suddenly a siren goes off, announcing a fire and forcing everyone to evacuate. Worried about the girls, they run toward them, knowing they are trapped on the upper floor. After receiving a call from Keed, Yuya reaches the fire, covering himself in a magical layer of water to pass through the flames. He finds the girls unconscious from the smoke and uses magic to protect them. With no other way out, he creates a magical opening and rescues them just in time, and afterward, Kaori's father deeply thanks him for his help. On the way back home, he reflects on having a real family and realizes he has no one. As soon as he arrives, Knight runs toward him, clearly having missed him. Yuya decides to cook something for them and comes to recognize Knight as his true family. In the next scene, Yuya is in the sage's cabin, reading and learning about magic from a book. He starts training teleportation magic and manages to teleport to a place in the forest. He and Knight explore the area and find a cave. Yuya decides to enter and encounters some enemies. He and Knight defeat them easily and obtain many valuable items. Soon after, Yuya tells Knight they need to go back home so he can prepare for the school trip, but Knight suddenly runs off. Yuya chases after him, realizing that Knight sensed something strange ahead. As a precaution, he activates his invisibility skill and advances carefully. He finds another injured girl surrounded by several goblins. Yuya wants to help her, but Knight stops him, and a powerful goblin strikes, toppling a tree. However, mysterious threads block the attack, allowing the girl to cut off the goblin's arm. Yuya is intrigued by these threads, but the goblin charges at her again. She defends herself with the threads, but the goblin leader strikes hard, leaving her apparently unconscious. When the leader approaches again to attack, Yuya intervenes with Knight's help, defeating the remaining goblins. However, countless more goblins appear, so Yuya decides to use the Divine Whip, which captures and crushes all of them at once. He reflects on how absurd this weapon is, able to hit multiple targets at the same time and never miss. After the battle, he wonders what to do with the girl and considers taking her home, but Knight seems to disapprove. Yuya doesn't want to leave her there, but she suddenly wakes up, startled to realize she was being carried, and falls to the ground. Yuya offers her an herbal healing drink, instantly curing all her wounds. Impressed by the potion's effectiveness, she asks who he is. Yuya introduces himself and also introduces Knight, who is strangely hostile toward her, leaving Yuya confused. The girl then reveals her name is Luna and tells him she was training in the forest when she was attacked by goblins. She asks about the goblins, and Yuya says he has already defeated them all. Curious about why he was in the forest, he explains that he was also training, which surprises Luna for some reason. She thanks Yuya for taking her to a safe place and apologizes for being dirty and sweaty, but he doesn't mind. Luna asks if there's a nearby river where she can wash up, and Yuya offers his portable bath. He waits outside while Luna is surprised by his rare item. Yuya explains that he obtained the item after defeating a crystal servant, leaving her even more impressed that he managed to defeat such a powerful creature. Although for Yuya, it's normal to face these monsters in the dark forest, Luna reveals she is there on a special request from a client, though he doesn't hear that part. She asks him to accompany her in training since they both have the same goal there, and Yuya, not wanting to leave her training alone, agrees to train with her. After that, the two train together, with Yuya assisting Luna, but also learning from her. They both grow stronger, and at one point we see Luna defeating a goblin with her threads. Yuya praises her for taking down such a strong goblin, but she says she still has a long way to go to complete her mission. Yuya says he also has to leave and tries to explain about his school trip, but Luna doesn't really understand. He apologizes, and she thanks him for all his help. On the last day of training, while Yuya is relaxing in the bath, Luna suddenly appears wanting to bathe with him. Yuya becomes very embarrassed, but Luna hugs him, saying that the time they spent together was special and that she will treasure these memories forever. She offers to wash his back, but her towel slips, making Yuya even more flustered. Soon after, we see Yuya's class departing for the school trip, and he's playing cards with friends. Keed notices he looks quite tired, and Yuya admits he didn't sleep much the previous night, and what was he doing? Anyway, Yuya wins the game several times, surprising his friends, and he believes this only happened because his luck attribute has increased dramatically. He also thinks that meeting Luna was a result of that. When they arrive at the trip location, the students change clothes, and the teacher explains they must spend 2 days camping, surviving only on what they can find in nature, such as fish and plants. Keed worries that the plants might be poisonous, but teacher Sawada says the school's doctor is available, though the students remain uneasy about her since they often hear screams from the infirmary. Akira thinks they can go a day without eating, but Sawada says the activity is part of the class and will be a competition between the groups. Yuya asks about prizes, and Sawada reveals it affects her salary bonus, asking them to do their best, though this doesn't motivate many students. In the forest, Yuya's group decides to split up, and Rin thinks Yuya and Keed will fish while she and Akira search for edible plants. When they reach the river, they find Ryu, who tells them the best spots are already taken. Using his detection skill, Yuya finds another place with plenty of fish, but Keed thinks the shallow water will make fishing difficult. Yuya decides to step into the water, and using techniques taught by Luna, he manages to catch several fish with his bare hands, greatly impressing Keed. Meanwhile, in the other world, in a dark part of the city, Luna destroys several puppets with her threads. Noticing she has grown much stronger after training with Yuya, we discover she is an assassin known as the Headhunter and is part of the Dark Guild. Even so, she realizes Yuya is special and wishes she had met him earlier, imagining how different her life could have been. Later, Yuya's group gathers to present what they collected, and he meets Kaori, exchanging a few words. Akira is surprised by how close they seem, wishing he could be like Yuya. The team presents everything they gathered to Sawada, who is impressed that they're the first group to bring such a large amount of edible food. She gets excited thinking about the bonus she'll receive, but remembers they will also be judged on the taste of their dishes. When she asks who will be the cook, everyone points at Yuya. Sawada encourages him to give it his best, saying her bonus depends on him alone. Yuya thinks she didn't need to make her self-interest so obvious. He then starts preparing his dish, making use of the experience he gained living alone and cooking in the other world. He prepares an impressive meal, and the team begins tasting it. Yuya just keeps watching, eagerly awaiting their reaction. Sawada, after having a few drinks, shows up and is surprised by the dish. She also tries it, and Yuya feels quite anxious and apprehensive about what they will think, but everyone is amazed. Sawada comments that although the school meals are prepared by renowned chefs, she believes his food is even better. Not understanding how that is possible, Yu thinks about how he has always cooked for himself, but feels happy to see people enjoy his food so much. After the meal, Sawada asks if Yuya would agree to marry her, surprising everyone. She reveals that she does not know how to cook or clean, since she has always been dedicated to research, and has also never had a boyfriend before. After tasting his food, she concludes that he would make an excellent husband, asking him to take care of her. Everyone says that this is a very bad idea, with one of them saying that she is not enough of a truck for Yuya. Keed says she cannot do that, and that there are many other reasons for it. Yuya wonders if a person can truly be unsuitable, but Sawada insists on marriage and states she will wait for him. Yuya feels embarrassed, saying that she is a great teacher, but this is highly inappropriate for her position. Sawada feels happy hearing that and hugs him tightly, while Keed tries to pull him back, and Akira can only think about how extremely lucky he is. Later that night, he uses his teleportation ability to go to his house and check on Knight. With some food he had stored, he quickly prepares something for Knight to eat. Watching him eat, Yuya thinks about how good it feels to see people happy with his cooking. He returns to the camp, where everyone is bathing together, and they all start staring at him, leaving Yuya confused. Akira points out that his body is impressive, and Yuya asks if there is something wrong, but Akira is amazed at how handsome and muscular he is. While in the girls' bathroom, Rin teases Keed by saying that all the boys must be interested in her. They come across Kaori, who mentions that Sawada wanted to marry Yuya, and Kaori is surprised, with the girls commenting that Sawada has the advantage in this competition. Keed seems inspired to try to win Yuya as well, and Kaori begins to question if she likes Yuya, but quickly denies it. Rin thinks she is being very obvious, but Kaori continues to wonder what kind of boy Yuya prefers. The next morning, some students notice that their belongings have been rummaged through, and think it may have been the work of a thief. Akira becomes very concerned while Yuya checks if their possessions are still there. The group heads out to look for breakfast, but Akira becomes alarmed when he sees scratch marks on the trees. Yuya remembers that Akira had said he would be used as bait for bears and understands what is happening. Suddenly, a bear appears in front of the girls, making them run away quickly. The bear chases after them, and the students panic. Sawada tells the group to hide, and the bear collides with the table. Sawada shouts for them to run, and during the escape, Sawada falls, and the bear leaps onto her. But Yuya intervenes, fighting the bear and managing to knock it unconscious. He checks if Sawada is alright, and she says that normally she would scold him for fighting a bear, but since he saved her life, she will let it pass and proposes marriage again, and he politely refuses. Yuya asks what will be done with the bear, and Kaori explains that they will adopt it as a guard, and if it attacks again, it will be turned into a rug. Which, to me, seems to make quite a lot of sense. But anyway, with everything resolved, the camp comes to an end. Back at his home, we see Yuya with a scheduled meeting with a king in the other world, with Alexia coming to meet him. Upon spotting a group of demons in the forest, he realizes it would be dangerous if they encountered Alexia's entourage, deciding to defeat them right there. Knight attacks one of them, and Yuya throws his spear, but the demon manages to catch it, so he switches to a hammer and crushes the demon, once again impressed with the sage's weapons. The demon drops an interesting helmet, which Yuya examines, while the strange rabbit watches him, believing he is the chosen one. Alexia's group appears again, and Owen becomes alarmed at the helmet, which Yuya quickly removes. They are happy to see him and formally invite him to the palace. But Knight jumps on Alexia when a tree falls, and Yuya cuts it in half. He notices that the threads are the same as Luna's and understands that Knight was protecting the princess. Owen is confused, and we see Luna angry for failing. She tries to flee, but is intercepted and knocked unconscious by Yuya. Realizing she truly is Luna, he asks to take care of her and bring her home, because he believes she is not evil. Alexia agrees, becoming curious about Luna's story, who reveals that she is a bounty hunter assassin, surprising Alexia. Yuya begins to suspect that Knight may have known about the situation from the start, realizing that this might have been the reason for his initial aggression toward her. Luna says she had been assigned the mission to eliminate Alexia, but now that she has failed, her death is practically certain. She explains that she will either be executed, or the Dark Guild will hunt her down for her failure. Yuya becomes concerned, but Luna questions why he cares so much, since they have spent so little time together. Yuya answers that even if it was a short time, it was meaningful to him, and because of that he considers her a friend. Luna believes there is no salvation for her, but Alexia intervenes, suggesting that she start working as her personal guard. Luna does not understand, and Alexia clarifies that only she and Yuya know about her assassination attempt, which makes it much easier to keep the secret. And as the princess's guard, it would be much harder for the Dark Guild to reach her. Luna thinks it makes no sense, saying she is a criminal with blood on her hands, but Alexia praises her hands, saying they are beautiful and soft. And Luna shyly replies that it was thanks to Yuya's special bath. She insists on refusing, but Alexia argues that since the assassination attempt failed, now Luna must obey her, and with no way out, she accepts the position. Meanwhile, Owen and his soldiers flee from the goblins, and the soldiers can no longer fight, needing to retreat. They leave Alexia's safety in Yuya's hands, and Luna is surprised at how events have turned out, thinking Alexia acts like a true dictator. The princess's first order is to learn more about Yuya's famous bath, and Luna explains that he possesses a rare item capable of creating baths anywhere, helping to restore energy and enhance beauty. Alexia becomes fascinated and wants to try it immediately. She decides to bathe with Luna, inviting Yuya, who nervously refuses, leaving the princess quite disappointed. And during the relaxing bath, Alexia directly asks Luna if she likes Yuya. Luna says they are just friends, and Alexia replies that she noticed her interest, but Luna insists it is only an impression. At that moment, Alexia reveals her plan to marry Yuya, which makes Luna uncomfortable. Alexia says that if they were only friends, there would be no reason to get jealous. So they declare a love war over Yuya, stating that whoever marries him will be the winner. Confused, Luna accepts the challenge, determined to win Yuya, thus becoming both the princess's guard and her rival. After the bath, Yuya offers to prepare dinner. Alexia tries to help but completely fails when attempting to cut a simple potato. This way, Yuya takes over the kitchen, making a wonderful dinner, while Alexia praises him a lot. Luna becomes jealous and asks Yuya to feed her, claiming difficulty due to her injuries. Feeling guilty for having hurt her earlier, he agrees, causing jealousy in Alexia, who uses her royal authority to force him to feed her as well. At night, the two girls sleep together, and Yuya thinks, exhausted, that the day was amazing. The next day, he meets Owen and his team again, and Yuya apologizes for leaving them earlier. Owen questions the new members of the group, and Yuya reintroduces Knight. Owen thanks him for saving Alexia and becomes suspicious about Luna's identity. But without hesitation, Alexia explains that she was an assassin who tried to kill her, but now works as her personal guard. Everyone is shocked by this revelation, especially Luna, stunned at how quickly the secret was revealed. Owen orders her to be surrounded immediately, but Alexia demands that they stop. Owen remains suspicious, but Alexia points out that they have already slept together, so if Luna wanted to kill her, she would have already done so. He accepts the explanation but decides to keep a close watch on her. Yuya then says he will no longer be able to accompany them, as he needs to return to school. Owen invites him to visit whenever he can, giving him directions. Alexia says goodbye, asking him to return soon. But Luna runs to Yuya and kisses him, thanking him for everything. And Alexia is devastated, wanting to go back to kiss him too. But Owen ignores it and continues the journey. Yuya thinks about the kiss, wondering if Luna likes him, but soon decides to relax by taking another bath. He finds a strange creature hiding and discovers that he has just tamed it. The creature accepts the situation, and Yuya sees that his appraisal skill has greatly evolved, allowing him to see its abilities, such as one called Sacred Soil, which creates a luminous field with bonuses. Impressed, he names the creature Akatsuki. Knight warns him about the time, and Yuya runs to school, where teacher Sawada announces a sports competition that affects her salary bonus. The first event is soccer, and Yuya plays as goalkeeper. At the start of the match, Hayu dominates and scores a goal by himself, and Keed is quite impressed. But Rin has another plan. She asks Keed to jump and distract the boys, and Akira steals the ball and shoots, but Yuya easily defends it. He throws the ball with such force that he ends up scoring a goal directly from the other side of the field. And after classes, an agency tries to recruit Yuya, but he politely refuses. The model Miu appears, surprising his friends, seeing a poster of the sports competition. The head of the agency decides to create an article about the event featuring Yuya. In the other world, Yuya defeats a skeletal monster and decides to explore the forest further, finding an area with extremely hard trees. They are practically impossible to damage with normal attacks. Yuya starts to wonder how Akatsuki got so big, but in reality, Akatsuki is right behind him, and then a mithril boar ends up attacking him by surprise. Yuya uses his healing ability, but the boar keeps pressing the attack, and he realizes the situation is getting complicated. Out of nowhere, the boar is sent flying as a mysterious rabbit suddenly appears. This rabbit introduces himself as Sag, and Yuya is quite surprised to realize he can talk. The boar even tries to return to the fight, but Sag finishes it instantly, destroying some trees around them as well. Yuya checks Sag's stats and notices he is truly strong, with a large number of different titles. Yuya thanks the rabbit for helping, and Sag asks to see his kick. Yuya shows how he can kick, and Sag says he has talent. Then the rabbit demonstrates his own kick, which passes through several trees at once, and decides to train Yuya until he reaches that level. After some time, Yuya finally manages to destroy a tree, and they begin sparring together as training. Yuya wonders why he is receiving this training, and Sag explains that he wants to make him his successor. Sag reveals that he is considered a divine being, and that his duty is to pass on his techniques. He says that this title of divine is given to those who completely master a certain skill, and in his case, he is the master of kicks. These divine beings have the mission to protect the world from the Viz, creatures that embody the world's negative aspects. Yuya asks if he can refuse to be his disciple, and Sag answers that he can, but says that sooner or later, the battle against the Viz will happen, so all help is welcome. Yuya does not really like the idea of becoming a divine, but he remembers that he wants to protect Knight and Akatsuki. Even so, Sag continues training him, and asks to learn magic, since he was impressed by the magic barrier at Yuya's house. Even though Yuya knows it was not made by him, but by the sage, in the end, the two agree to exchange knowledge, with one teaching magic and the other teaching kicking techniques. Later, Yuya is chased by the boar, King Dimitral, and Sag thinks it is a great chance for Yuya to try a new duel. Yuya struggles, but using kicks and his whip, he ends up defeating the boar. He celebrates as he obtained several rare items. Sag explains that there are different monster types, ranked SS, SSS, and Extra, and that the Viz are far stronger, and above that level, they are legendary rank. Soon after, Yuya receives an alert saying he is evolving, and begins to shine. Even so, his appearance remains the same, but he gains several new abilities. The next day, Yuya participates in a ping pong competition, and the manager asks him to impress the audience. But his opponent is the national champion called Sniper. He serves so powerfully that Yuya cannot even return it, but then Yuya strikes back so easily that it pierces the table, though he prefers to drop out of the game so as not to hurt anyone. And the photographers are very frustrated because they could not get any good shots of him playing. Keed shows up and drags Yuya to volleyball, since the team is missing a player and the manager comes along. And as soon as the game starts, everyone is astonished. The ball explodes and the court is destroyed, and the other team does not even try to continue. And the manager realizes the photographers missed everything again because they were distracted. Keed comforts Yuya, saying that in the end, a victory is still a victory. Right after that, they hear a scream and find Kaori. Yuya is trying to understand the situation, and one of Kaori's classmates is being taken away because he got hurt during the match and warns Yuya about the serve. He then takes the position for the tennis slot, and the opponents warn him that he will also end up getting injured. The match starts and Kaori serves strongly, almost hitting Yuya, but the ball goes out of bounds. He tries to encourage her, but on the second serve, she ends up throwing the racket. And in that moment, Yuya realizes that the other student left the game because of Kaori's strength. Knowing this, Yuya takes responsibility and starts returning every ball, helping the team win. Kaori even tries to help, but ends up throwing her racket again and almost falls. But Yuya catches her, and the boss finally manages to take a good picture. At the end of the day, Kaori goes home with Yuya and thanks him for all his help. She wants to buy him something to eat, but Yuya says that just being with her is already great. And out of nowhere, she surprises him with a kiss. Meanwhile, Sage is in combat with one of the Viz and uses magic to defend himself. And the girl fighting him is very surprised, since theoretically he shouldn't be able to use magic. Sage thanks Yuya for teaching him that, and the girl decides that Yuya is even more dangerous, so she resolves to go after him. The agency boss is reviewing the next issue and celebrates the number of photos of Yuya. She imagines the magazine will sell a lot, but the assistant thinks other agencies will want to compete for Yuya after this. However, the boss already has a plan to make sure Yuya can't refuse the agency's offer. Later, at Yuya's house, he and Kaori are studying together, and Yuya thanks her for always helping him with math. But she says it's fine since he's also helping her with English, even though Yuya knows he only understands English because of his special skill. In a flashback, we see the two walking back to school together, commenting that exams are coming. Yuya feels a bit anxious, and Kaori finds it funny to see something he's not good at, so she suggests they study together. She meets Katsu, who thinks his pets are really cute since they're sleeping. She asks to go to the bathroom, but Yuya wonders if she'll be able to find her way, and Kaori ends up reaching the door to the other world. Yuya goes after her, but Kaori says she felt as if she was being drawn there. Yuya becomes tense, explaining that the door leads him to another world, and asks her to try putting her hand through. When she does, she's blocked by a magical barrier, and Yuya explains that only those with permission can pass. Kaori asks about this other world. He explains that there are monsters and magic there, even showing some of his powers, and Kaori is very surprised. Yuya tells her it's because of this world that he gained so many skills, including the ones he used to fight delinquents and save people from the fire. Kaori can hardly believe it, but Yuya offers to show her the place, asking for her hand, and the two cross together. When they arrive, Kaori is amazed, since the place really exists, and Yuya explains that Night and Akatsuki came from this world. He says Night is a Fenri, like a wolf, and Akatsuki is kind of like a pig, which makes Akatsuki furious. Kaori's status window appears, and Yuya explains that here, abilities are measured by status. He's surprised since she has much better stats than he did at the start, remembering that at the beginning he had only 1 point in everything, so she's much better than he was at the start. He explains how he leveled up here and how his appearance changed because of it, saying he even feels like a bit of a cheater, since people only accepted him because of these changes. Kaori quickly changes the subject, asking to see more of the world, but Yuya warns that outside the magic barrier it's dangerous, so they agree to explore another day. She makes him promise, and he asks her to keep it a secret, bringing them even closer and creating a special bond. Meanwhile, in the capital, Alexia returns to the castle, and the king immediately asks why Yuya isn't with them. Owen says he had to change the plans, and the king already suspects it has to do with Luna. Luna doesn't hesitate to admit that she tried to assassinate Alexia, which makes the king draw his sword, ready to eliminate her. He lunges forward but stops the attack when he realizes Luna was smart enough to grab his arms, knowing that the sword could cut through anything that tried to block it. Alexia gets angry at her father, saying that she chose to accept Luna as her bodyguard, and she threatens to stop loving him if he harms her, leaving the king heartbroken. He ends up officially accepting Luna as the princess's protector. Then he asks Owen to tell him more about her, and Owen explains that she was once called the headhunter of the Dark Guild. The king then asks where Yuya fits into all this, and Owen explains that Yuya was the one who managed to capture Luna, and even took her and Alexia to his home. When the king realizes Alexia stayed at a man's house, he explodes, wanting to hunt Yuya down at all costs. Owen tries to calm him, saying nothing happened, but the king isn't convinced since he didn't see it himself. Meanwhile, somewhere else, we see a masked man, the one who had tried to kill Alexia before, and he is, in fact, Prince Hedger. He's the firstborn, and his subordinate reveals that a noble conspirator had hired Luna to eliminate Alexia, but she failed because of Yuya and even ended up becoming the princess's bodyguard. The subordinate also says that Yuya has been invited to the palace, which sparks a brilliant idea in Hedger's mind. He hands the man a secret weapon, a barrier that nullifies magic, blocking any spell within a certain area. That way, the mages who defend the king will be useless, leaving only Owen and Luna as obstacles. The subordinate worries about being exposed if things go wrong, but Hedger believes that if they fail, they can still blame Yuya, since he will be there visiting. Meanwhile, Yuya enjoys a day off after the school competition and starts getting ready to go to the capital. He tends to his crops, defeats a sheep monster, and gains several items, including a magic blanket that promises the best night's sleep. Next, he heads to a nearby village and is surprised to see cat girls walking around. He goes to the local guild to try to make a deal, since he doesn't have any money in this world, and the guild master thinks the name Yuya sounds strange and doesn't recognize where he's from. Yuya says he came from a very small island, but the master suspects he's a noble just by his appearance. Yuya insists he's just an ordinary guy, but no one really believes him, and the master asks what he wants to sell, then is stunned by Yuya's item. Yuya pulls out a bunch of peppers, and the master is impressed by the container. After examining the peppers, the master realizes they are of extremely high quality, though Yuya thinks they're normal. The master offers 100 gold coins, and Yuya isn't sure whether that's a lot or not, since he doesn't understand the local currency. The master explains that with just 5 gold coins, a family can live comfortably for an entire year, so 100 coins would last 20 years. He also gives Yuya a guild letter that serves as an ID and explains how to catch a ride straight to the capital. Arriving in the city, Yuya is shocked by the crowd, and Akatsuki points out where the castle is. Yuya starts to think he'll end up feeling out of place there. He goes to the castle and is greeted by Owen, who says they'll head straight to the king. Yuya immediately panics, thinking he's not ready, but Owen tells him not to worry, it's just an informal chat. Inside, Alexia and Luna are already waiting, and Yuya bows to the king. The king starts right away by asking about his daughter's supposed marriage proposal, getting furious at the thought that Yuya rejected Alexia. Owen manages to calm things down, but the king is also displeased because Yuya didn't bring a gift. Yuya then gives the special blanket he received, and Alexia loves the present, but the king sees it as some kind of provocation, thinking Yuya is trying to win over Alexia right in front of him. Owen tries to explain that Yuya doesn't know the traditions, and Yuya himself is confused. Alexia explains that giving bedding is actually a marriage proposal, and Yuya realizes he messed up. The king prepares to attack, but suddenly the group is ambushed by assassins. The king orders the guards to attack, but the enemies activate the magic nullifying barrier, stopping everything. The assassins advance, but Yuya and Knight take care of everything quickly. Alexia hugs Yuya and praises him a lot, while Luna, dying of jealousy, tries to pull her away, all under the king's deadly glare toward Yuya. Owen finds an emblem on the attackers, and everyone realizes Hedger is behind the assault. The guards spread word of the attack, and the king seems to lock himself in his quarters afterward. Yuya wonders what to do next, while Owen asks for his help in protecting Alexia. Yuya goes to see her but hesitates to knock on the door. Alexia comes out and invites him to explore the capital, since it's his first time there. It's as if they hadn't just been attacked. But Luna, ever cautious, tries to remind her of the danger. Alexia argues that if her brother attacks again, he'll reveal his own location, and Luna reluctantly agrees, realizing the real reason is Alexia's desire to leave the castle. Luna suggests that she herself could be Yuya's guide, but Alexia refuses, saying she won't let them go off alone together. Owen even proposes showing Yuya the city while the two women stay in the castle, but they both refuse. In the end, everyone goes together, and Owen just watches from a distance. Alexia wants to show Yuya the jewelry shops, but Luna has other plans, and the two start bickering. They draw the attention of passers-by, who think Yuya must be someone important to be walking alongside two such beautiful women. They stroll through the city, and Yuya becomes interested in the Adventurers Guild, mentioning that he's already registered with the Merchants Guild. Luna recommends that he also register with the Adventurers Guild, since he's constantly hunting monsters, which would make it much easier for him to sell items and take on missions. Luna says she's going to sign up too, but Alexia doesn't like the idea one bit. Luna then says that Yuya will probably be so busy that he won't even be able to go on a mission with her. They're assisted by Emilia, who gives them the registration forms. Yuya starts filling his out but hesitates when it comes to listing which magic spells he can use. He remembers the old sage saying that people around here don't really understand much about magic, so he decides to hide the fact that he can use all magic types including teleportation, and only writes down wind, fire, and water. For the magic power measurement part, Emilia explains that they use a crystal ball to evaluate each person's energy. Yuya wonders why people don't just check their own status directly, but Emilia mentions that most adventurers prefer to keep that secret, so this method is used to prevent lying. Luna takes the test, and the sphere glows yellow, though she says she's never been great with magic. Then it's Yuya's turn, and everyone is surprised when the sphere simply shatters. Emilia thinks it must be a mistake and repeats the test, but the same thing happens, the sphere breaks again. Yuya apologizes, thinking he might have to pay for it, but Emilia says not to worry. When she checks his form, she's shocked to see that Yuya has mastery over 3 different magic elements. Yuya asks if that's a bad thing, but Emilia explains that having 3 magic domains already makes him nearly legendary. Alexia praises him, and Yuya is thankful he didn't list even more abilities. Once everything is ready, Emilia uses a machine to create their guild IDs, explaining that everyone starts at rank F. Yuya asks if there are any rules for completing missions, but she says they can do them at their own pace. She just asks them to be careful not to overharvest plants during gathering missions so they don't wipe them out. They look over the mission board, wondering which one to take, when Yuya is approached by Glina, who was impressed that he broke the sphere. She clings to him, saying she's looking for someone strong to do something fun with, but the girls quickly pull her away, saying she's had too much to drink. Glina leaves but makes it clear she expects to see Yuya again. Alexia starts worrying she'll have to protect Yuya from other women, but Luna tells her not to overthink it since she can't even handle Luna herself. They head to the fields for a herb gathering mission, and Yuya notices that his skill even gives him tips on the best way to collect them. Luna finds it tricky not to damage the roots, while Alexia just enjoys the break from everything. She challenges Luna to see who can gather the rarest herbs, with a date with Yuya as the prize. Owen reminds them not to strip the place bare, and everyone goes off in different directions, leaving Yuya alone. He finds a mana plant, and Akatsuki wants to help but only finds poisonous plants. The girls return with their finds, and Yuya begins examining them when Owen comes running, saying they've found the first prince's location, and asking Yuya for help. Alexia and Luna return to the castle, while Owen and Yuya head out to investigate. When they arrive at an old, empty house, everything seems quiet, and Owen thinks the prince may have already been captured by other soldiers. But as soon as they go in, a soldier is stabbed, and the prince is threatening a guard only for Yuya to send Knight to rescue the man. Owen surrounds the prince and tries to convince him to surrender, but he refuses. Suddenly, the prince threatens to take his own life, saying he's worthless. Owen doesn't know what to do, but Yuya steps in and stops him. The prince tries to attack, but collapses instead. Owen thanks Yuya, but as they prepare to take the prince away, an explosion destroys the house. The prince is relieved to see the bottle girl, but she tells him he's failed and is now useless. Shocked, he says he thought she wanted to help him become king, but she reveals she only ever intended to use him to cause war and death. Realizing he's been deceived, the prince is stunned as she prepares to kill him. Owen tries to intervene, but is stopped by an arrow. Yuya tries to locate the shooter, but the girl starts firing multiple arrows. Owen asks what she wants, and she replies that she wants to destroy all of humanity. The knights can barely react, as she seems to anticipate their every move. When she's about to strike the final blow, Yuya uses magic to scatter the arrows. Owen thanks him again, and the girl realizes Yuya is the one she's been looking for. She wants to fight him, but she's already spent too much energy, so she decides to retreat. The prince is taken away, and Yuya remains curious about who that girl could be. Rieger is taken to the king, and the soldiers remove his mask and clothes, revealing several scars. Alexia can barely look at him, and it's revealed that she was the one who unintentionally caused all of that after losing control of her magic and injuring him. He ended up losing his mind after receiving all that magical energy from Alexia, developing a destructive impulse that could only be eased when he hurt himself even more. He blames the king for not helping him, for isolating him from the people, and for the fact that he was no longer the first prince. Everyone ignored him, and Yuya understands his feelings. Rieger just wants the suffering to end and asks to die, but Yuya says there might be another way and administers a healing serum. Rieger resists at first, but ends up being completely healed, shocking everyone. He runs to the mirror in disbelief that the marks are gone. Yuya explains that the medicine was made from a legendary herb, and the king is astonished that he would use something so rare to heal his son. But Yuya says it's no problem because he cultivates the plant in his own garden. Rieger even laughs, but reminds them that he's still condemned to die. Alexia asks what crimes he committed, and the king says there were several assassination attempts. Since the crime was against her, Alexia decides to pardon him. The king reminds her that Rieger also tried to attack him, but she insists on the pardon, and the king eventually agrees, thus Rieger escapes the death penalty. Right after, the king considers a reward for Yuya. Alexia suggests marrying him, and Luna also volunteers, but instead, the king grants him the title of Night Lord, as well as land and a mansion. Yuya goes to his room to rest and quickly falls asleep. In his dream, he ends up fighting the mysterious girl again and wakes up startled. The next day, his friends invite him out, but he runs straight home. Not even paying attention to Kaori, he can only think about that girl. Yuya returns to the other world and begins training intensely, already preparing for the confrontation. Knight senses something strange, and suddenly they are attacked. The girl appears. Yuya wants to understand her reasons. She says she wants revenge and that he might ruin her plans. Meanwhile, Kaori goes to his house to study, finds the door open, and decides to take a peek into the other world to look for him. She hears explosions in the distance, and the girl begins firing arrows at Yuya. He charges at her alongside Knight, managing to land a solid hit with Knight's support. She's impressed and thinks she must finish him quickly before he gets stronger. She fires more arrows, and Yuya notices Kaori nearby. Kaori panics, and Yuya tries to protect her, which results in an explosion. The girl is about to deliver the finishing blow, preparing her most powerful attack. But Master Usagi suddenly appears, blocking her strike. He apologizes for being late, explaining that he was investigating some things and discovered the girl's name is Iyuri. He also found out she is actually a famous disciple of the divine archer. Iyuri then reveals that her master died, and that's why she seeks revenge. Iyuri says the sag only appears when the situation is already hopeless, while her master always risked his life to protect humans, only to be betrayed by them. Usagi replies that the duty of the divines is to face evil, and that using divine powers for destruction goes against their pact with the planet itself. But Iyuri argues that she only inherited her master's skills, she never took on the title of divine, so she doesn't have to follow that pact. They fight, and Yuya ends up copying the same move Usagi used to help him, creating an opening. Usagi lands a strong kick on her, but Iyuri insists she won't give up her revenge, claiming humans are worthless. She then begins to unleash her evil power. Usagi says that by gaining the power of evil, she has become an evil god. Her scream is so intense that Yuya can barely stand. Iyuri charges at Usagi, and they exchange heavy blows. Usagi takes a serious hit, and things seem lost. But Akatsuki rushes in to help, activating his ability that strips Iyuri of her powers, allowing Yuya to defeat her. Usagi explains that, besides the divines, there are also sacred beasts that fight the evils, and Akatsuki is one of them. That means Iyuri won't be able to use her evil power again, and Usagi leaves her in Yuya's care. Right after, Kaori comes running, but a monster is chasing her. Yuya takes care of it instantly with a single punch Saitama style, leaving Kaori in shock. Yuya simply says that's just how his routine is in this world, and he asks her if she was scared seeing him fight like that. He admits he became stronger in this universe, feeling a bit like a cheater, thinking she wouldn't like him that way. But Kaori denies it, saying he's the same guy from when he first saved her, always kind, and that she has liked him since that moment. After that, we get some really nice scenes, like Kaori meeting Alexia and Luna. Alexia takes Kaori's hand, and the three go take a bath together, chatting and getting closer. Then we cut to Yuya leaving home for school, only to notice his siblings nearby, watching him. You can feel they want to reconnect, and try to rebuild their bond with Yuya. And after that, we see Ayut arriving as the new student at school, and everyone in class is shocked by how beautiful she is. In the end, the anime closes with Kaori entering the classroom, seeing Yuya super happy, talking with his friends. And that's where we end our video. This anime has a very beautiful look, but the animation is poor, almost non-existent, though at least the visuals are there. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, share it with your friends. Comment down below, I love this Isekai, so we know you watched until the end. That's it guys, we're in this together. God bless you. Thanks. See you. Until the next video.